We're going to go live to police headquarters for an update on a drug investigation dubbed Project Cerro. We're going to hear from Deputy Police Chief Pauline Gray and Superintendent Steve Watts for the details on this investigation. Let's listen in.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to be joined by Superintendent Steve Watts of Organized Crime Enforcement to update you on the outcome of yet another successful drug seizure investigation by the Toronto Police Service Drug Squad. In November, I stood before you to announce the largest single-day seizure in the history of the Toronto Police Service, a staggering 671 kilograms of illicit drugs. Project Cerro, which we're here to talk about today, was a continuum of that investigation and has resulted in the seizure of yet another 388 kilograms of illicit drugs, including cocaine, fentanyl, and crystal methamphetamine. The total estimated street value of these drugs is $32 million. 4 firearms were also seized in this investigation, along with 7 motor vehicles and $500,000 in Canadian currency. As well, as Superintendent Watts will speak about in more detail, 7 people have been arrested and charged with various crimes in relation to these 2 investigations. The Toronto Police Service will continue to dedicate the resources necessary to keep dangerous drugs and people off the streets. And I want to personally thank all the members, including the drug squad, who participated in this investigation. Make no mistake, investigations like these and the seizures and arrests that follow save lives and prevent further violence in our city. I'll now ask Superintendent Watts to discuss the case in more detail. Superintendent?
Good morning, everyone. Deputy, thank you for your remarks. I'd like to open by stating a sincere thank you on behalf of the Chief, the Command, the community at large, and myself personally to the men and women of the Toronto Drug Squad for their outstanding work ethic and continued demonstrated excellence in achieving these complex investigations responsible for achieving these successful outcomes. I'd also like to thank CISO, the Criminal Intelligence Service of Ontario, for their assistance and support through funding from the Ontario government. It's important to understand, organized crime groups continue to seize on the opportunity to profit from the harm caused to the community and cause significant public safety and public health concerns. This is occurring in all of our neighborhoods in Toronto, the GTA, and all the smaller towns and municipalities in Ontario proper, through the importation and distribution of illicit substances, sometimes laced with toxic opioids. The drugs distributed by these organized criminal groups have fueled and continue to fuel gun violence and associated crime and disorder in our communities throughout the GTA. One of the most effective and proven ways to reduce violence on our streets is to disrupt these criminal groups and associate individuals that are responsible for the importation and distribution of these controlled substances before you. So I'll just back up a bit. The deputy referred to it. Back in June, the investigators from the Toronto Drug Squad Major Project Section commenced investigation, June of 2022, into the importation of cocaine and crystal methamphetamine. On October 5th, 3 parties were arrested in regards to the distribution of these narcotics. At that time, there was still further investigation to be conducted, and this culminated in what you see before you now as Project Cerro. Project Cerro commenced in October of 2022 and continued with further investigation, and further stash houses were located and further associates identified. On January 17th of this year, search warrants were endorsed and executed, and an additional 4 persons were arrested. That would be Project Cerro in front of you. There were 7 condominiums where search warrants were conducted. We're alleging these were stash houses for these narcotics in front of you. You'll see also 4 Glock handguns, fully loaded, that were seized during this investigation, and a total of 364 kilograms of crystal meth, 20 kilograms of cocaine, and 3.8 kilos of fentanyl were seized with a street value of $32 million. There was also vehicles seized, 7 vehicles seized during this investigation, and over $500,000 in Canadian currency was seized as a result. So in total now, we have 7 persons that are before the courts in relation to both Project Zafiro and Cerro, in relation to the distribution of these controlled substances. The totals for that equals 1,058 kilos of controlled substances seized. That's a total of 170 kilos of cocaine, 884 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine, and 3.7 of fentanyl. The total street value of these narcotics in this combined project is over $87 million. I'll now open it up for any questions.
How much does this represent what's going on in our city when it comes to the drug trade? Is this a typical kind of haul, or like, are they getting bigger?
Well, I wouldn't say this is typical. As the deputy referred, the last one was our single largest day seizure. They are getting bigger. I mean, it speaks to the issues, the cross-border issues, whether you're involving firearms, whether you're involving controlled substances. So yes, the seizures are getting bigger, but it's also due to the quality of our investigators and in essence, the work that's being put in to address this issue.
Will these drugs be manufactured here in Toronto?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The ability to manufacture crystal methamphetamine at a high level, at a pure level, these are coming from Mexico.
Through the States?
Correct. Mexico through the southern U.S. We've had previous projects where I've stood in front of you. There's different modes of transport, you know, whether it be vehicular transport, and they're being transported up through southern United States and up into Canada.
Is this the work of a Mexican cartel then?
Well, I'm not going to speak to that. I can speak to the fact that the only people that would probably have the ability to supply this amount would have to be cartel-based, and I'll leave it at that.
The people you arrested, are they Canadian?
Yes, I believe so.
Antonio?
Yes. For the most part.
Any other questions?
What will happen with all these drugs once, you know, you've gone to trial? And what's the usual way of disposing this kind of stuff? And the cash, how do you deal with that?
Well, the cash is right now designated as proceeds of crime. So there may or may not be asset forfeiture. That'll be a judicially determined outcome on that. As far as any controlled substances, they're incinerated. Once the trial, once the appeal period, once that is all completed and the judicial process is completed, the drugs are incinerated.
The people who you've arrested, are they on bail?
I believe it'll be on the press release, I believe, that's going to be released to you. There's a couple of varied dates. I believe the majority are in custody as we speak. I believe the most of the 7 are still in custody, but they do have some upcoming court dates, which you can get off of the press release, which will be issued.
Good work, guys.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you, Pam.
We've been listening live to Superintendent Steve Watts and Deputy Police Chief Pauline Gray speaking to us live from Toronto Police Headquarters. You saw just the mass amount of drugs, cash, weapons on the table in front of them. Project Cerro, the largest single-day seizure for Toronto Police. Some 388 kilograms of drugs worth $32 million. Also 4 firearms seized, fully loaded Glocks, 7 vehicles, and several people now facing charges as well in connection to this police investigation.